was always in sales. I mean, even when I was a kid at like 10, my sister was 3 years older, you know, bought one of these programs where you got these fake flowers, but they didn't call them fake, but that's what they were, fake flowers, and you were supposed to sell them. Well, she wasn't a salesman. So I took them and went door to door and sold every one of them in 2 nights, and then ordered a bunch more. So she took all the money because I was younger. But I liked doing that. And when when I first came to Christ, I went door to door. And in college, I actually knocked on, over the process of my 4 years, I knocked on about maybe 1,800 to 2,000 doors and tried to share Christ with the people in the community. I actually shared Christ with 1,000 people during college, door to door.
Wow.
So, I mean, you could, we don't might want to call that salesmanship, but you have to actually present your message clearly and adequately and fairly and truthfully in any organization, in anything you do.
Sure.
And so I had that early on. That was kind of a motivational thing. Yet no one else in my family had ever done that. So
That's awesome. So you've told me a little bit about, kind of your background. Can you tell me a little bit more about IAM and how it's helping?
yeah, International Associations of Ministries is designed specifically to partner with, first identify people who really have a heart from God to, heal a hurt, to meet a need, and to build a hope in people who need that. But they're not called to the church. They're not called to be a pastor. They're not even called to be an associate pastor, or they don't feel called to be a missionary in the traditional sense, or an evangelist in the traditional sense. They have a passion. For instance, one of our ministries is Adopt a Mom, and that particular project works with single parents. And we try to encourage them, to support them, to be a mentor to them, to honor them on Mother's Day, and to help them at Christmas and Thanksgiving and that kind of stuff. That's just one project. We have about 40 more in this area alone. We're actually helping about 15,000 people a month on average. And if you have a calling like that, typically today there's nowhere to go. I mean, you go to your pastor and that church may go, well, yeah, that's a great thing, but we don't have that capacity now. We don't have that burden now. We don't sense God calling us to that. So what do? Well, typically you go, well, it must be not God calling, or I don't know what to do with that, so I'll just let it aside, or maybe I'll volunteer sometime, somewhere, somehow. But if you really have a calling of God, that doesn't go away.
Sure.
So IM was created to be a framework in which you can get your 501c3 with us. You become a DBA. I am doing business as the name of your ministry. So you immediately have a 501c3 nonprofit covering. We handle all of your administrative, legal, and financial issues, meaning all the money goes into there. Our CPAs handle everything. All you're left to do is to go minister. Go do what God has called you to do. Yeah, you've got to raise your own support, and a lot of our people are doing it not intending to make any money at all, to earn a living, I mean. They're just doing it as a way to raise support and pay their expenses to do the ministry. Some people are going, I want to go from full-time job here to full-time job in the ministry here. And so they use that as a process. So that's what we do.
Okay. That's great. So it sounds like your primary goal was to develop a platform to help people.
Correct.
Okay.
That's very well said. To help people, yes.
Cool. Did you have any kind of startup plan?
Actually, our initial startup plan was to help churches to get started, and so we would identify them, we would help to raise support for them, we would train them, equip them, I would mentor them because I had started so many myself, and then to unite them. We're not, Christianity ultimately, and especially ministry, is not a Lone Ranger deal, it's a posse deal. And so we want to bring together people that, even if they have entirely different ministries, they have the same heart and the same Lord that's motivating all this. And so several years ago, when it became clear that there's a whole bunch of people out there trying to help churches get started, but no one that we knew of was trying to help new ministries, parachurch ministries, to get started, And so that was our motivation, to clear every obstacle and roadblock and challenge that an average person met that might cause them to wonder if it was God's calling them, to clear that away and let them just go minister. So that was our goal, it's still our goal.
Cool, that's awesome. What would you say would be your most triumphant moment?
My most triumphant moment? I don't know about the moment. We have 8 to 10 new members of IM, new ministries every year. We're in 8 different countries. So every time we have someone call me up and say, Dave, I've heard about you, I've heard about this, what could I talk to you? That's a triumph for me.
They're all triumphant moments.
Yeah.
Awesome. Have your goals changed for IAM since you started?
Well, yes and no, meaning we've had overall objectives, and now we're trying to add additional training options. We now have a grant writer for people who want grants, who feel like they may qualify for grants. That works with us, and we're wanting to add the opportunity for reduced financial services costs, meaning eventually, just like in any other organization, you have access to financial services as a member of, and that's what we want to provide that as well. So we're just continually wanting to add value, and add value in a way that that makes sense for the kinds of people we're working with. Now we have, for instance, we have a licensing process. We didn't used to do that. Pastors are ordained in a denomination. We license people, parachurch ministry leaders, so that they can have the same professional standing and the same kind of tax standing that a pastor would without being ordained. So we have a license. We have that process, which is relatively new as well.
Okay. That sounds awesome. Sounds like that would be very valuable. What would you think would be your most valuable asset?
In IM, it's people, it's ministries. I mean, what we do for, what the collective team does for people is just, frankly, out of the park.
Okay.
So, is that the sound to quit?
Just a couple more questions here. If you had to do it all again, would you do it the same way?
I would do it earlier.
Do it earlier, okay.
I would do it more aggressively. That's pretty much all the difference would be, you know, so.
What would you say to an upcoming entrepreneur in terms of how to get started or the importance of being an entrepreneur?
Well, the entrepreneur is probably, you know, it's two aspects of what it takes to make a difference in society. If you don't have entrepreneurs, you really don't have employees and businesses and administrators and all that. Because entrepreneurs find better ways and new ways to provide service and add value. So we need them. We need people like me. But if you don't have the employee, if you don't have the worker, if you don't have the administrator, if you don't have their combined, individual and combined expertise, then the entrepreneur is swinging in the wind. He can't do anything, so, or she can't do anything. So it's a combination, really. We do need more entrepreneurs here in America, and we always need them, because otherwise you grow stale. And if you grow stale, there's less, you know, employment opportunities. Because every new, you know, when the computer industry started, well, wow, how many employees do you have there? You see what I'm saying? So without the employee, there's no Steve Jobs. Without Steve Jobs, there's no new employees. So you need both of those. So I long to see more and more entrepreneurs. I'd like to see them become more spiritual entrepreneurs, meaning you can have a great business and provide a great service and add value. But if you don't, if you're not an integrated, holistic person, recognizing that the spiritual element doesn't just fit into the church, but it fits into every element of society. So if we have more and more of those people, then we have a better chance of not only creating greater businesses, but better people. And so if I had the opportunity to speak to would-be entrepreneurs, I would say there's no suit that everyone fits into. Entrepreneurs are as unique and different as people are. You can be super smart and thoughtful and intellectual. You can be a person that focuses on just getting it done and going out there and getting it done and even flying by the seat of your pants for a while. You don't have to be good looking, you don't have to be tall, you don't have to be short, you don't have to have administrative skills. All you really do need to have is that sense of passion about something that matters and a willingness not to let up or give up until you grow up into what you're called to do, what you want to do. That tenacity that says, I will find a way over, under, around, and through every obstacle, every time, until I win. Another one would be, failure is a price of success. Every single entrepreneur which I have studied, which have been hundreds, every one of them failed. Most of them filed bankruptcy more than once. Every church I started that succeeded, there were a couple of churches that failed, that no longer exist. So if you identify your potential as an entrepreneur by individual failures or individual situations, you'll never make it. Most actual winners don't realize they're winning until they have a moment to look back on things. And so if you have a heart to do something, do it. And if that fails, do another one. And if that fails, do another one. Until you find something that really clicks with you and you run with it like crazy. Now don't do what I did when I was starting churches, and that is I had no money and I had a wife, which she was fine with, but when I started having kids, I went, I cannot continue to start new churches with no money because I got kids now. So, you got to be careful about financing. So I started a business in order to finance my ministry. So that may not be what you do, but do something to keep your family together in the process.
Yeah, awesome. Well, great. You've given us a lot of really helpful information. I appreciate you taking the time to go over all this stuff with us. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. God bless you and all the entrepreneurs now and in the future.